I hope we can get to a point as a society in our consciousness that we are not supposed to work hard. We are not supposed to do hard things. You never see things in nature striving and struggling, right? It's all kind of a natural growth. And I think we're getting there. But we used to have duels, right? Like if you couldn't agree on whose parking spot that was, people would break out swords and guns and they would duel, right? Today, if we saw two guys dueling over a parking spot and risking each other's lives over a parking spot, we would look at them and say, wow, they seem very stupid, right? We have raised our consciousness to a level where we say, use your words, not your actions, right? Use words, not your fists, right? So that is an evolution that we have gotten, because that wasn't always the case, right? When there was a disagreement, we used to live in a world where there didn't seem any other option except to duel. Okay? So it's definitely, an incremental thing that happens. But I really hope as a collective whole, we realize how stupid the way you look at two guys dueling over a parking spot is, and how stupid that is how stupid you feel looking at people who are saying, yes, I am miserable in my relationship, but relationships are supposed to be hard. So, that's the way life is, right? Yes, I am miserable in my job, but that's the way it's supposed to be, right? Life is supposed to be hard, right? Design your life so that it is easy. If you are in situations that feel hard, remove them from your life. It is an unnatural thing for you to engage in something that feels like a struggle. Decide that God does not want you to struggle and strive. That doesn't mean you don't grow, right? Grass is not pushing and forcing itself to grow. It is part of its nature to grow. You never when you were 5 years old, you never tried to force your index finger from going this long to this long, right? No, it was a natural growth, right? We can still evolve and grow without doing hard things, right? So a lot of people have kind of bought into this idea of relationships are supposed to be hard. And it's really sad because it's when you bring hardness into your life. Number one, the good thing about it is it's really hard to bring hard things into your life. A relationship that's really hard, it's going to be really hard to even make that person your husband, wife. It's going to be really hard to make that person your partner. So when something is feeling really, really hard, just know that at the end of it is going to be more hardness, right? So you want to find someone that feels easy. It feels like you're just living life with your best friend. And if it stops feeling like that one day, you are not going to try to push and pull at each other to make it feel good, right? You're going to say, wow, this doesn't feel natural anymore. And this might be a time to separate. And you have to, and even that moment, it might feel emotionally hard, but you'll notice that relationships where it's not a good fit, a relationship that feels really hard, yeah, it's a little work and a little juggling to pull those pieces apart and coordinating your guys' lives have overlapped and intertwined if there are kids involved, right? It's going to take a little bit of juggling, but in the end, it will bring you ease, right? Every time you have to go somewhere, it is technically easier for you to get outside your house and walk 15 miles to the grocery store, right? But you understand to go through the trouble of opening the car door, putting your keys in, turning it on, pulling out, reversing, and going to the grocery store, right? So yes, it's easier to just get out and start walking, but it's not actually easier in the long term, right? It takes a little bit of juggling. You got to open your car, you got to do all this thing, but what would have taken you a very long time is now a quick 5-minute drive to the grocery store, right? So, and you will feel so easy when you remove hardness from your life, you guys. And that's why I say you want to look for a natural partner. You want to look for someone who is your mirror. And I'm talking about the big picture things, right? Big picture, you want someone to be your mirror. Values, how you like to keep your living space, those kind of things. Small items, right? If you love red and he loves blue, whatever, right? That's something that's very easy for you to get over, right? And for some people that might be different. If you're very, very passionate about green and that person likes orange, you and green is really important to you, then you should probably find someone who cares about green just as much as you do, right? If it is hard for you to look past things, take that as a sign that you shouldn't engage in that. And the only reason you are engaging in that is because you have a lack mindset, or someone convinced you that love is supposed to be a difficult process. It is like saying grass growing is supposed to feel like a difficult process. When you are in love, when you are with friends, when you are in a romantic situation, pick people where it feels like the easiest thing in the world, right? It's very hard to fit a square and a circle together, right? You can squish and you can force, and you might be able to kind of wedge it in there with the square's corner kind of sticking out. But you can, if you really, really tried, very unnaturally and unharmoniously, you can fit a square and circle together. But as soon as those square and circles go over a speed bump, as soon as there's a little trouble, that square and circle, it's not going to work, right? They're going to fall apart. So, and then again, you're going to, along the drive, keep trying to force the square and the circle together. If you're a circle, pick another circle. Pick something where it feels like how grass feels when grass is growing. That is how natural your relationship should feel. Do not pick relationships are hard. Do not pick marriage is hard. Say, I am going to pick a relationship that feels like the most natural, easy thing in the world. If on my wedding day, I don't feel like this is the most natural, easy wedding in the world, and me deciding to marry this person isn't the easiest decision I've ever made in my life, because it should be a very, very easy decision. If it's a hard decision for you to decide if you want to marry someone, don't marry them. You're trying to fit a square in a circle, right? And that it doesn't even have to be because of who you are as people. Maybe where you are in your life, that's a really great person, but where you are in your life, you aren't sure about that, about marriage right now. Trust it. If it feels hard, you are moving in the wrong direction. You are trying to force a square and a circle together, and as soon as there's a little turbulation, they're going to fall apart. So pick your match, pick your mirror, pick natural. Okay, there are so many people who are living a life where they have a 9 to 5 and then they come home to a 5 to 9. If the person in your life romantically feels like a second job, that is a bad relationship. That is a wrong relationship. Hard is wrong. That is an unnatural relationship. And you are trying to force something that is not true to your nature, and you will know all the signs, you guys. You never will say, you can't. I love this quote that says, God says, all good things come from me. All bad things you bring upon yourself. I want you to think about past toxic relationships you've had, toxic friendships you've had, anything that you would look back and think, oh yeah, that was bad. If you really look back, you will know all the signs were there. You just didn't want to notice them. And even then, you would catch yourself in moments trying to be okay, forcing, right? Force is unnatural. Forcing yourself to overlook things that just didn't really sit right with you. But, this was a great enough person, or you're just so desperate to not be alone that you're okay forcing yourself looking over these little things, you guys. Oh, you're supposed to ignore the little things. Like, if it bothers you, like you're the problem or something. Pick someone who is your natural match. Pick someone where it feels like the easiest thing in the world. Don't let someone else tell you, oh, it's just a little thing that doesn't matter. If that little thing is important to you, there is someone out there who is your mirror, and that little thing is just as important to them, right? So it's either being in a lack mindset or kind of being brainwashed by this idea that you are supposed to struggle in love, that you are supposed to use force in love, but you should never, ever be forcing anyone to do anything they don't want to do. If you don't like how that person's acting, remove yourself, but do not sit there and force and scold and say, hey, like, you were supposed to do this for me and you're supposed to do that, because all it will do is come back to you. Every time you exert a force, there will be a counterforce. For anyone, when you had to force yourself to look past things in a past relationship that bothered you, how did that end up working out for you? You wasted years of your time. You got frustrated. The way that relationship fell out was probably also something that took a lot of your time and took a lot of your energy. Every single time you catch yourself trying to do a mental gymnastic, every time you catch yourself trying to be okay with something you're not totally okay with, that means when you put in that exertion, know that you will have to receive that exertion again later. And the more you force yourself to overlook this, then overlook that, then overlook that, and overlook that, it will eventually crack apart. And maybe the relationship won't fall apart, but your health will decline. Your mental health will decline. You will no longer have energy for your job. You'll just won't have an excitement about life. So maybe if you're so desperate to make that relationship work, if you're so desperate to make a square and a circle fit, you might be able to do that, but it will, when you do unnatural things, it will take a toll somehow, right? It's very unnatural for someone to go out and pull on grass to make it grow taller and make it grow faster, right? Can you imagine thinking, oh God, I really got to grow this grass. It's got to be this high. And you start kind of yanking on it to make it grow even more, right? What is that going to do? You might yank and you might get your grass. It might either completely come out in your hand, which is now dead grass, or you're going to really stress that grass out. And that grass, it might grow as tall as you want, but it's not going to live very long, right? So every time you catch yourself exerting force, whether that's mental, whether that's verbal, saying, hey, you were supposed to do this for me. Hey, you were supposed to do that for me. That person is not your natural match. If it's really important to me to date a guy who gets me flowers once a week, I will never bring a guy into my life and say, hey, you're supposed to get me flowers once a week. I will let him be totally relaxed and do whatever he wants to do. And if I like what I see, I'll keep him in my life. And if I don't, I'll walk out. But I'm not going to say, be this for me, because I would hate that if someone did that to me. I want him to be him and do him and love me in the way that he wants to love me. And if I can't speak that language and it doesn't resonate with me, then I'm not okay. Maybe he's the type of guy who likes to, whatever, get coffee once a week and not flowers once a week. I know I'm a flower girl, so I'm going to pick a guy who, for all of his previous girlfriends, he's always gotten his girlfriends flowers once a week. He's always done that. That is who he is in his nature. And that guy will naturally meet all of my needs without me ever having to open my mouth, right? And I might say, hey, I actually like pink flowers, not yellow flowers, right? There's a difference between preferences and values, right? I know date night once a week is important to me. I want someone who also that's important to him. And then he'll ask, oh, do you want Italian? Do you want this? Do you want, right? So preference, I'm not saying anytime someone acts in a way that you don't like, completely remove. Values, that person should be your mirror, right? The love language that you guys speak, that should be your mirror. And then you can give preferences and you can say, little things like, people have their own childhood traumas, and saying, this is how it feels really natural for me to be loved, and this is important to me. Can you naturally provide that for me, or will you feel like you're forcing yourself to provide that for me? And if they say, I really feel like that's not something that I like to do, and it's not natural to me, it's best that we part ways. I am a natural caller. I love to call people on the phone. I'm not big on texting. It's not really in my nature to text, but that if I really love and care about someone, that is something naturally I can take on. I can naturally take on setting alarms and checking my phone, whatever, 2-3 more times than I usually do to make sure I'm responding to text. That is a very natural addition that I can make to my life where I won't feel like I'm going outside of myself. But if that person likes a back and forth texting all day, I will say that feels like an unnatural step for me. And I want you to find someone who is your mirror, because there's lots of women out there who love texting every day. So please find your mirror, right? So that's what I mean when I say find a relationship that feels like the most natural thing in the world. You're not looking for fireworks. You're not looking for butterflies. You're looking for the cozy campfire. You're looking for your mirror. You're looking for someone who feels like your best friend. Like it's just going through life with your best friend. It's just the way grass feels when it's growing. How fun, how easy, how natural that is. That is what your relationship feels like. So I want you to go home and think about your relationship and say, does this feel like how grass feels when it's growing? Does it feel easy? Does it feel like I'm not forcing myself to do anything that I'm not comfortable doing? Does it feel like I'm forcing myself to be something that I'm not? And if that's the answer, you are trying to force a square and a circle together, and you might be able to hold those shapes together, but it will take a toll on you. It might take a toll on your partner. Either ways, you are just setting yourself up for a counter force. When you use force, you are setting yourself up for that to come back to you in some way. In some way, it's going to come back to you when you go outside of yourself to do something hard, when you go outside of yourself to do something that is unnatural to who you are. So what do you get for doing hard things? More hardness. And isn't that so beautiful? Isn't that so poetic that you were actually put on this earth to look around the room and pick the thing that felt the easiest, to pick the thing that felt the most natural to who you are as a person, to pick the work that feels like the most natural work you'd ever do, right? Do you guys, like, it's just this kind of revelation where we are really, really supposed to pick ease. Every time we do something that feels hard, we are doing something that is unnatural to our being, and we are using force. Force is unnatural. Exertion is unnatural. And I'm not saying you don't have fun, right? You're exerting when you're running around and playing with your friends and you're trying to see who can win the race faster, or you were trying to jump and reach the first branch on the tree. Tomorrow you're going to try to reach the second branch. You're going to see how high you can jump, right? That's really fun. That's really natural, right? You're not dragging yourself and saying, okay, I guess now tomorrow I've got to try to reach the second branch, and now I've got to by next week I have to be able to reach the third branch when I jump up high. And like, I'm whatever, you're sixth grade, it's summertime, and every week you're waking up and you're like, oh God, I gotta reach for branch number like, that's not how it is, right? You are growing, you are wanting more, but it is natural and it is fun, and it is you're in a state of ease, you're in a state of peace. You know what I mean? So you can, if you have your mind set on someone, you might be able to get it. If you have your mind set on that blade of grass, you might be able to yank and get that piece of grass. But it is not going to serve you in the end. I know you want it, but if it's feeling so hard to bring it into your life, take a step back and say, okay, I know that I am put on this earth to only engage in things that feel so easy. What does this feel so easy? Because when step number 1 feels hard, step number 15 is going to feel like torture. Okay, step number 1 feels hard, step number 2 feels harder, step number 3 feels like, oh, it's a struggle, but I can keep going. Step number 4, you're exhausted, but you can keep going. Step number 15 is going to take a toll on your health. Step number 15 is going to affect different areas of your life. So please know that when step number 1 feels hard, you are moving on a path of hardness. Hard does not lead to easy. It never leads to easy. It just leads to more struggle. So stop yourself. Stop yourself in the middle of step 1 and say, is anything about this feeling hard to me? Is anything about this feeling like it's against my nature? It's against what is true to me? And that's the thing. It's also, for a lot of people, if you grew up in a household where there was a lot of conflict, you didn't even like it as a child. As a child, your body felt that stress, and you knew that you weren't enjoying it. You would go to a friend's house and their house was really peaceful, and you'd be like, wow, like, it's so beautiful to see such a peaceful home, right? So when you are living that life, you will find that when you are looking to get in a relationship, you are going to pick a person who feels like home. If you come from a toxic environment with a lot of conflict, you are going to pick a relationship that feels like a lot of conflict. And even then, it'll be so hard, right? If you grew up in a home of conflict, it's really hard for you to go back and see your parents, right? That's a hard thing. Even, but like you do it out of a sense of responsibility, which, whatever, that's a different conversation. But it still feels hard to engage in your home life. Same thing with the relationship. You're probably going to pick a relationship that felt like your home life. And the good thing is, even then, it's going to feel hard. All the signs will be there. It is not easy to live in a home of conflict, right? It's not, because when you are in a home that feels easy, you're like, wow, this is so like peaceful, right? Some people feel unease at peace. They are so addicted to this feeling of having stress all around them. Peace feels uneasy. You're so used to rowing upstream that when things feel downstream and they feel easy, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel like home. Easy doesn't feel like home. I'm used to struggling in the home I grew up with. I'm used to struggling in all the previous relationships I've been in. But this feels so easy. There's got to be something wrong. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. If it feels easy, if it feels unnatural, but trust your instincts. If your instincts are still saying, oh, like, there's something about this I don't trust your instincts. But that's why it's so important before you get in a relationship, do some reflection so you don't keep repeating your home life, right? Because that's probably what you're going to get in your partner if you don't work to bring yourself to healthy baseline and you heal yourself from anything that you've been through in the past, whether it was a tough household, whether it was a tough relationship. If you don't look in the mirror and take some time to say, how did all of these things affect me? How can I heal from them and make sure that they don't repeat in my life, right? You have to learn the lessons, because until you learn the lessons and take the time to reflect, it will keep showing up in your life. You will get toxic relationship after toxic relationship that leaves you drained, and it's probably reminiscent of a relationship you had in your youth or your home life. So make sure you do reflection, and sometimes, and I'm not saying you have to trudge up what you went through, but you have to decide who you're going to be. Pick a model, pick your model relationship and say, you know what, they seem really healthy. They seem like I like this relationship. You don't have to trudge back all the things that you've suffered, right? What you have to do is say, that's what I'm going to be. That's how I'm going to handle it when like, I love this dream couples, all dream couples even have conflict, right? But I'm going to handle it like that couple handles it, whether it's from a TV show, whether it's your favorite celebrity couple, whether it's whatever, social media. Pick a couple that you can start modeling and say how their relationship looks really healthy. How would she handle this when she's upset about her husband for doing this? How would she handle it? And pretend to be her. Train your mind into being who you want to be. You have to do that instead of being what your past self went through. You know, it's really, really, that's why I like Dr. Joe Dispenza, because he doesn't talk about having to trudge up what you've been through in the past, right? Like, your brain has buried a lot of the traumatic things that have happened to you, and there are some lessons from that you've learned. There are some behavior preferences that you've learned. If you grew up in a toxic household, you're probably going to find toxic people attractive, right? So you have to make sure that you are, right? So if I have my dream couple, I'm looking at the wife and I'm like, yeah, that's who I want to be as a wife. That's what I want to be. I'm going to start practicing that as much as I can. Now that I'm single, I'm going to really emulate her and who she is. And and I have a girl of who I want to be in my career life. I look at her and I say, yeah, that's who I want to be. I want to be her. In my married life, when I get married, I have a model of a wife who I'm going to pick, and I'm going to act like her when things come up. So I know that I am thinking like a healthy person. I'm not thinking like me, who came from that whatever previous relationship that left me unhealed, whatever, that didn't serve me and make me become the person that I want to be. So I'm going to look at someone who does have what I have, and I'm just going to start copying them, because I want to be her. I want to have the kind of marriage that she has, and I'm going to look like a husband. I'm going to look for a husband that's like her husband. I'm not going to pick who I might naturally gravitate towards. If I've had toxic relationship after toxic relationship, I'm not going to pick who is my whatever natural thing, right? I'm going to pick who I'm aiming to be. I am aiming to be the wife of this relationship when it comes to love. I have a different career woman. I have a different health woman. So, right, I have models for different areas of my life. But in regards to relationship, that is the woman I want to be. And you will notice as you become that woman, and you start to copy her and you start to think like her and you try to do things the way she would do things, you will notice that the guys that date that kind of woman also start coming into your life. The partners that date that kind of partner also start coming into your life. They were never coming into your life before, when you were just who you naturally were from all your traumatizing relationships. They were never showing up. But now that you're like, I'm going to think and act and do things the way she would do things if she was in this situation, suddenly those guys who match you show up. So it is a thing of being who you naturally are, but right, it's very natural for me to want to be this woman. No one's forcing me to be this woman model that I have for my relationship. I love it. I feel so good when I act like her and I do her, and I'm like, yes, like I love that I'm becoming this kind of woman, because old me was a toxic girlfriend. New me is going to be a very healthy girlfriend, right? So I'm emulating all these behaviors and I'm going to be her, and I'm not doing something that's unnatural to me, right? That is still a natural behavior, a natural growth that I want. And the thing is, if I were to never do that, I would probably just end up in toxic relationship after toxic relationship. And the nice thing is, even those are hard. Like even if I did end up in a toxic relationship again, I would feel like it's a struggle. And that's what I mean by that quote where God says, all good things come from me, bad things you bring upon yourself. It is really hard and it takes a lot of force for you to bring bad things into your life. Isn't that so reassuring that you can't bring bad things into your life easily? It's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of conflict. It's going to take a lot of doing things that aren't natural to you to bring a bad situation into your life. And that's why you've got to really just stay conscious as you're moving through your day and saying, does anything about this feel hard? Does anything about this feel unnatural? Does anything about this feel like I'm going outside of myself to make it work? Does anything about this feel like a struggle? Because I know that God put me on this earth to pick downstream. I know God put me on this earth to pick easy. I know God put me on this world to have fun, to be playful, to be at ease, to create a life where every day feels like I'm on summer break, right? And people think, oh my gosh, nothing would ever get done. That's not true, right? That's not true. When you were on summer break with your friends, you were trying to see who could bike around the neighborhood faster, right? You were trying to see how tall you could build your Legos. You were trying to see how who could make their Barbie in the cutest clothes, right? That is not true. When you are having fun, there is absolutely growth. There is absolutely evolution. So do find reassurance in that. Um, yeah. Okay. I just, so many of us have like bought into this idea that work is supposed to be hard, relationships are supposed to be hard. And when you do something hard, know that you are signing yourself up for more hardness. That's it. It doesn't get easier afterwards. It doesn't get more fun afterwards. If you are taking a step that feels miserable, know that it will just keep feeling miserable and it will get worse and it will be harder to disengage. Now, the misery, step 1 felt hard. Step 15 feels like misery, and it's a lot harder to walk away. You're emotionally a lot more invested. You're mentally a lot more invested. There's a lot more memories associated with that person. There's a lot of habits that you had to unlearn. If you just went on that journey with someone for steps 1 through 5, you are going to have to come back from that and think about, oh gosh, what bad habits did I learn from that relationship? What did I learn about myself from that relationship? I'm going to really have to work to unlearn those things and really understand what about myself was going on that I allowed it to get to step 5. So you're going to have to take some time to reflect when you've gotten to step 5 of hardness. But if you get to step 15 of hardness, number 1, getting out of that is going to be really, really convoluted. It's going to be really annoying. It's going to be really hard. It's going to feel like a huge effort. As soon as you do, you're going to finally feel like you can take a deep breath, because like step 1 is hard, but you can keep going. Step 15, as soon as someone takes you off those tracks, you're like, oh, thank God. Step 1, you're like, whew, dodged a bullet, right? So, but step 15, it's going to be a lot of effort to dislodge yourself from that, but it will feel really good when you do. So, but save yourself the trouble, right? Save yourself the trouble. And at step number 1, say, this feels like hardness, and I know hardness means I'm moving in the wrong direction, whether it's in love, whether it's in work, whether it's in success, whether it's in anything. If it feels hard, take a pause and think, okay, if I keep moving along this, don't expect easier, expect harder. Okay. Please stop telling friends, stop telling family. Relationships are supposed to be hard. Marriage is supposed to be hard. When you are giving people relationship advice, tell them to pick the partner who feels like the most natural thing in the world. They feel like a cozy campfire. They feel comfortable. You feel safe, right? You don't want fireworks. You don't want butterflies. You want the campfire. It should feel, and if you think that's boring, if you think that the way grass grows is boring, and you think it's so much more fun, butterflies just sound so much more fun, fireworks just sound so much more fun, that is your childhood trauma talking. That is your toxic relationships from your youth talking. That is because only if you are craving chaos, you haven't healed from chaos, okay? If you find yourself saying, oh, I'd like something with a little excitement, I'd like something with a little rough and tough, you haven't healed from that. And do not date someone Who is healed when you know you are kind of in that I want fireworks, I want sparks vibe? Because number one, if they're healed, they'll just like find you to be a mess. So it won't even last really long. But if for some reason they do stay with you and they have some little hint of trauma that they haven't resolved and they do stay with you, it's still going to, if it starts in fireworks, it's going to end in fireworks, okay? You don't want to be living in fireworks. You want it to start like a cozy campfire, right? When you get into a healthy relationship and for some reason you guys break up and you part ways, that feels like a very healthy breakup. Healthy start, healthy relationship, healthy breakup. Unhealthy start, unhealthy relationship, unhealthy breakup. Easy beginning of the relationship, easy dating phase, easy relationship, easy breakup. Hard dating phase where, why isn't he texting me the way I like him to text me? Why isn't he doing this the way I want him to do this? Why is she doing it like this? I don't like this. I don't like this. Hard dating phase. Harder relationship. Harder marriage. Harder divorce. But the good thing is, the relief you will feel when you do leave that marriage, it's going to feel like 10 out of 10 rest, right? If you stop it in the dating phase, which ideally you do want to, right? You want to stop the bad dating phase and you want to keep it in the bad dating phase and you're going to be like, whew, dodged a bullet. But if you have managed to struggle that hard, when you do stop, it's going to feel so good. You know, like getting into your bed after a long day, that's how it's going to feel. So please decide that hard is wrong, and please make sure to heal yourself and do reflection after every relationship, after every home environment, whether it was family, whether it was roommates, after every period of your life where it felt a little rough and tough, it felt a little conflict. Excuse yourself from the dating world, excuse yourself from the friendship world, and do a little reflection. You don't even, if you can't afford therapy, you don't need therapy. Just some journaling, just some YouTube videos, just some kind of understanding of why you got into those situations, and own those situations. Every bad relationship that I've had in my life, I own it. Like, that is on me for not taking responsibility to heal myself. I will never, ever blame anyone for anything that happened in my life. I take full accountability for everything that happens in my life, good or bad. And the thing is, the beautiful, poetic thing about life is all the bad things, I can look back at that and say, wow, your body and even the universe, even nature was fighting that match so much, was saying you two do not belong together. Like, every single obstacle that me and that person could have, we had that obstacle. And every time I like went outside of myself, I can remember all those moments where me forcing myself to be okay with something I wasn't okay with. The whole universe, it was so obvious, the whole universe was against that relationship, because it was unnatural. It was against nature for that relationship to work. But we managed, right? We managed, and it was a square and it was a circle, and we managed, and every time there was a little road bump, it was a explosion, and it was a hard dating phase, it was a hard relationship, and, you know, luckily it ended and it never, you know, progressed further. But yeah, when it feels like the universe is against you, don't say, why is everything against me? Say, I'm listening, tell me what I don't know, because life will always make it easy for you. Life will always make easy things easy, and the right thing is easy. You know you are moving in the right direction when it feels easy. Pick easy. pick natural. When you exert force, when you exert willpower, when you find yourself trying to trick yourself, oh, this person's acting like this, but he says he loves me. This person, never always says they're going to deliver on this, but they never actually do. But, they do say they love me. They do say they love me. And I gotta keep playing that over and over again. And, when you're doing, we feel this idea of like force in the outside world, right? The action world, where we're trying to force someone, hey, like, it's so important for you to make sure you text me every day, like right? There's that force, but there's also the force that you're doing up here. Refused to do any work up here. Refuse, because if you do work here, you can trick yourself into thinking someone who doesn't care about you, does care about you, right? So many girls, I see a lot of women struggling with this, where you're auditorially vulnerable, right? Someone is mistreating you, all their actions say, it's so obvious this person doesn't care about me, but they keep saying I love you in your ear, and you keep hearing all the sweet words that were told to you, and you're having to do work up here. You're having to say, you know what, but they did say this and they did say this, right? It's a lot of work to trick yourself. It's a lot of force to trick yourself up here. So I don't trick anything. I turn the volume down on life, and I just watch people's actions. The words that you tell me are pretty much irrelevant. You could tell me you love me, you could tell me you'd die for me, but I don't even want that from a partner. I don't want a partner who says I'll die for you, but like, you could tell me all these great proclamations, but I'll just see how you act. And that's all it is for me. I refuse to do any work up here. I refuse to exert any force up here. I refuse to use any willpower up here. I refuse to try to go outside of myself to be okay with something that I see. I refuse to be okay with something that I can force myself to get through, but I don't really like it, and it's kind of unnatural to me. But like, I guess if I need to force myself to, I can force myself to. Step 1 feels a little hard, right? But step 15 will feel like torture. So I am going to save myself from doing even just a little hard, because if I keep going down this path, I will get to step 15, and soon I will crash and burn. How enlightening. Don't you feel like you can just take a deep breath knowing that it's really, really hard to bring bad things in your life? Don't you feel like you can take a deep breath knowing that it takes a lot of work for you to be okay with things that you're not naturally okay with? Isn't that like so beautiful? I don't know. I love that so much. So I refuse to put in any work here. I refuse to put in any work here. I refuse to put in any work here. I just be myself. I just do me, because I don't want to put on a face and attract someone who is attracted to the mask that I'm trying to play. I just try to be myself, because I know I'm not looking to attract anything other than my mirror. That's the only thing I want. I want my mirror. I want my natural partner. I want someone who is easy and feels like the way grass feels when it's growing. Okay? This is really good news, because now you have just found out that if a relationship feels hard, you're doing something wrong. And you're not supposed to be in hard relationships. It is very unnatural to your being. It is very unnatural to the universe to be in a hard relationship. Isn't that amazing? That every relationship going forward, you know that you're never going to have to do work in that relationship ever. Because as soon as you catch yourself doing work, it's probably going to lead you down a path of harder work. So never do any work. Never do any work in your relationships. Be you, be relaxed. If they don't like how relaxed you are, they'll just get up and leave, and you will find someone who loves how relaxed you are, because they're also so relaxed. I don't try to force my partner to be or do anything. I don't try to force my mind to be okay with anything. If my mind doesn't like it, my mind doesn't like it, and we're not going to talk ourselves into any gymnastics. So find a lot of peace in that. Find a lot of peace in picking easy, and picking natural, and picking, if you feel anxious on your wedding day, if you feel nervous on your wedding day, that is unnatural. Anxiety is an unnatural state, right? Negative emotions are unnatural state. Positive emotions are natural. If you are deviating from happiness, joy, ease, beauty, peace, if you are deviating from that, you are feeling something that is unnatural. The universe in its essence is goodness, right? It's growth, it's beauty, it's ease, the way the grass grows, the way the trees grow. None of them are trying to force anything. Only humans, because we have this advanced mind was made for us to be able to do all these complex things, but instead we use this advanced mind to trick ourselves into, so many things that don't serve us, such as relationships are supposed to be hard. I can't believe how many of us are kind of talked into that, because it's like the same thing of saying, oh yeah, it's so much easier to duel over a parking spot, and families are at stake, kids are at stake, right? Like, that's right. The play Hamilton, it like ends in a duel, because I don't know what argument the thing was, I don't know the whole thing, but whatever, and then someone died, right? That is Hamilton. You have an argument. That's what those times used to be like, where they're just like, okay, well, we really don't see any way out of this except shooting to the death and like seeing what happens. I know you've got a wife and kids at home. I know you've got a wife and kids at home, but like, what are we going to do? Like, this is the way it is, right? Like, how else are we supposed to resolve this? Oh gosh. Oh, what a struggle. Like, we got to fight over this parking spot. I guess this is the only way to do it, right? But we have raised, as a world, we have raised our consciousness to say words, not actions. Resolve in gentleness, resolve in words, right? We have evolved to that place. A lot of us, we are in a hard relationship. We are in hard jobs, and we're just like, all right, like, what are you supposed to do? This is the way it is. Relationships are supposed to be hard. Work is supposed to be hard. Remember, like, this is the way the world's supposed to be. What are you supposed to do? So we as a collective need to raise our consciousness and say, if it's hard and unnatural, if it's a struggle, if it's a drag, if it feels like I work, if it feels like you're working in your relationship, it is unnatural. You're moving in the wrong direction, right? The way we went from duels to use your words, not your actions, use your words, not your fists. Hopefully, as a world, we can evolve from work is supposed to be hard, relationships are supposed to be hard, study hard, not study in love, right? We don't talk like that. So hopefully, as a world, we can evolve to this level of consciousness where everyone's throwing around study in love, study in ease. Relationships are supposed to be easy. Love is supposed to be easy. Work is supposed to be easy. That's how it's supposed to be. Remember, that's right. Easy is right. So hopefully we get to the point where we all are talking like that, and that is the new lingo for us, because we are still operating in a world where the lingo is work hard, relationships are supposed to be hard, study hard. If step number 1 feels hard, step number 15 is going to be torture. Okay. Love you. Please relieve yourself of the struggle that we have all, our minds have consciously bought into it. Our bodies have not. When you are working hard, your body knows you are doing something that is unnatural to your being. When you are in a hard relationship, your body knows that you are doing something that is unnatural to your being. When you're studying hard and you're staying up and you're studying something you don't really care about and it feels hard to learn more about it and it feels like a struggle, your body will know. Your body knows. You will show up in rashes. It'll show up in the fact that you're stressed. It'll show up in the fact that you're anxious. It'll show up in the fact that you're asleep. So we have such complex minds that we can trick our minds into a lot of things, and we can trick ourselves into this idea that relationships are supposed to be hard, work is supposed to be hard. But the nice thing is our bodies are still animals. Our bodies will be like, yeah, F you. We know you're doing something that is unnatural. We know you're doing something that's unnatural. Okay, my throat's hurting. God. Every time I do these long talks, I swear, you guys, like, I don't even know where I go. I don't even know, like, what I'm saying the whole time I'm talking. I'm just, like, talking. Okay. Oh, I just really need some water. Okay, love you guys. Have fun. Pick easy. Please pick easy. I know no one ever told you that. But yeah. It really does actually serve you in the long run to pick easy. And I know it doesn't feel like that. And I know it's very counterintuitive, but okay, love you.